Janie's got a gun. Janie Briggs got a gun.
She's got a gun! Janie's got a gun!
What? Janie Briggs got a gun.
Hello, and welcome to Staff Picks, the podcast for movie nerds by movie nerds. As always, I'm Mario Lanza, and I am your host on this journey through the underrated or underloved movies out there that just, I think, need a little more attention. And today's movie is going to be an especially fun one. I know I say that about every podcast, so you've stopped trusting me. But this one, I have very high hopes for, because we are talking about a movie that I think is so fun. There's so many funny things going on in it. I've seen it so many times. And I'm talking, of course, about Not Another Teen Movie from 2001, which I would call maybe the last great comedy spoof movie. But yeah, this is one of those, there is so much going on in it, and I know so many people that love this movie. So we are just going to dive right into this one and have some fun and laugh, and this one is going to be a little out of control. So I'm already marking right now that we will be putting the little explicit rating on iTunes, so get warned for that one. My co-host today is the perfect person to bring on to talk about Not Another Teen Movie because his last name is Cummins, and I'm very excited for all the cum puns we're going to jump into on this one. Welcome to the show. Let's see, I don't know what you're known for. He's just a guy. He's a movie fan, a shadowy, lurking figure. Welcome to the show, Kevin Cummins.
Yes, thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm just a guy. Nothing special. I'm not on any podcast or anything like that, but yeah, I am the perfect candidate to talk about Not Another Teen Movie with the last name Cummins. And I'm ready for all the puns. I went to an all-boys high school, so nothing I haven't heard before.
Welcome to the show, Kevin, my co-host who's older than 7.
I'm glad you went to the Austin joke before I did.
Yeah, I was actually thinking all day how I'm going to start with an Austin joke, and that's the best I could come up with because your name does not rhyme with many things other than heaven, and I'm not going to use heaven in a sentence, so sorry.
Well, does he rhyme all the time? I think sometimes he'll just say something and then add Mr. to it. Like, you got a nice podcast here, Mr. You got a nice podcast here.
Yes. Okay, for people who don't know, this movie came out in 2001. It is a parody of basically every single teen movie cliche trope out there. And it's one of those that was hyped, really a big deal at the time. There's all these movie posters, and they had like a little thing with all these one-dimensional characters on the poster, like the token black guy, the smart jock, the nerdy guy, the fat kid. And it was one of those I expected nothing from. This looked like the stupidest movie ever, and this was kind of in the era when they were doing these genre spoofs of where they just throw every single recurring trope at the screen as they can, and I always thought it was kind of stupid. And then this one came along, and I saw this for the first time, and I loved it so much. And it's one of the best return on investments movies I could ever think of, where you go in expecting nothing, and it was so much better than what you were thinking.
Oh yeah. You would think absolutely nothing of this movie. It's sort of, I think it still gets lumped in with those later spoof movies that came out, like Date Movie and Meet the Spartans and some of those other ones. But it really is so much better than that. I liken it more to the Scary Movie and some of the older spoof movies because it's really smart the way they go about doing it.
Now, is Scary Movie really smart? I'm just curious. That's actually one I've only seen parts of.
It's decent. I would say out of any parody movie, I'd say this is probably the best of all time. But I don't think it should be categorized in the same place as like Scary Movie or any of those other ones that I just mentioned. This is in a league of its own. It's top tier.
The one thing about this movie that I have to say, obviously this is the type of movie that does not go over well with critics. The critics did not like this movie especially. But it's funny because like even now if you go online and you read recaps of it or reviews, even a lot of audience people don't like it, which is astounding to me because almost every single person I know loves this movie. It's just one of these, like, I almost feel bad doing it on Staff Picks because to me this is super popular. Like, everybody I know who likes comedy, just knows movies, knows movie references, tropes, and stuff like that, really gets this movie. It speaks to you because there's so many things going on in it. But yeah, it's one of those where there's just a real split. There's like people really love it or really don't like it, and I find that odd because I I have a hard time believing people would not like this movie. It's just fun.
Well, I think that depends on where you look because I actually, before we went to talk about it, I went and looked at some critic reviews on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes and stuff, and they're all, panned. Critics hate this movie. But it depends on where you look. If there's a website called Letterboxd, I know one of your other guests, I think it was whoever was on Brigsby Bear maybe,
Yeah.
mentioned the website Letterboxd. And it's a great way to categorize, keep track of every single movie you've ever seen. And the comment sections and the reviews on that website particularly, it's a bunch of really nerdy movie fans. You got to be really nerdy to want to keep track of every single movie you've seen. And they love this movie. If you look at the reviews on that, they all compliment how smart it is, the way they use. We'll talk about what makes it so good, but they love that movie particularly on that website. If you check it out, I recommend it.
Okay, yeah, okay. I remember that now. Yeah, Lisman talked about that on Brigsby Bear. Okay. What's your history with this movie? I'm curious, how old are you? When did you grow up? I'm curious, what's your knowledge of teen movies going into this movie and, the genre in general?
Well, it's great. I had two sort of experiences with this movie. I watched it, I guess I was born in 93, so I was 8 years old for the first time I saw this movie.
Mm-hmm. Good.
So a lot of the references and stuff went way over my head. A lot of the sexual references went way over my head. But a lot of the slapstick humor I enjoy, the toilet humor I thought was funny, so... And there's a lot of stuff where it's universal humor that sort of anybody can find funny and get a laugh out of. And then, later on, as I had seen a lot of these 90s comedies and stuff like that, and I watched it later on, I fell in love with it even more just by realizing how well they spoofed all of these movies, and the references is just crazy amount of stuff that they plug in.
Yeah, it's funny that you saw this at 8. I'm sure there was some really nice moments, especially in the brother-sister relationship with Catherine and Jake. The
yeah.
Incest goes over very well with 8-year-olds, I've noticed.
Yeah, it's great to be introduced to stuff like that at a young age.
Yeah, and I don't have to tell people who know this movie this, but for people who don't know, this is a really dirty movie. It's filthy.
Yeah.
It was absolutely would not have been allowed in my house growing up. But luckily I was, it was 2001, so I was 27 when it came out. So I was right in its wheelhouse. And it's funny because, you think this movie, that you need to know all these references to get this movie. And that's actually not the case because I'm not strong. I'll flat out admit it. I'm not strong in the 90s teen movies. I'm much more based in the 80s teen movies. I know all those like the back of my hand because that's when I grew up. But She's All That, Can't Hardly Wait, 10 Things I Hate About You, I don't know on a quote by quote basis. So that's a little tough for me. But I still love this movie, and it's funny because this movie's skewed. It's 80% 90s references and maybe 20% 80s references. So, Again, that's the thing. You don't need to know every little detail in this movie. You just need to know, the general gist of it. And then what happens is as you go and pick up those movies later, then you'll appreciate Not Another Teen Movie more. So that's my main little spiel here, that I'm not really the target market for this movie, and I loved it.
I think another thing that makes this good is that a lot of it is visual, where you never really need to watch those other movies. You sort of maybe just see the trailer or something like that, because we'll get into it. But the sets are spot on exactly from these other movies. So as long as you sort of see the trailer and are vaguely familiar with the movies that they're lampooning, you could sort of get what they're going for,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I actually have a personal story about this movie because I talk about this on Staff Picks all the time, that I'm always introducing movies to my daughter, and I have a daughter who's 18, and I'm always trying to get her into movies that I liked growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the genres that I have the hardest time with is teen movies. She will not watch a high school movie, teen movie, anything that's even remotely like a rom-com. She thinks they're stupid, they're cliched. She's like, I will not watch it. She won't watch anything. She saw The Breakfast Club once, and she goes, I want to throw up. That's the most cliched, hacky movie ever.
God.
Yeah, so this is the kid I'm dealing with. So I keep telling her we should watch Not Another Teen Movie, because if you hate teen movies, this is right up your alley. And
yeah, exactly, yeah.
But she won't do it. She will not give in on this one. So I'm having the hardest time with her trying to get her to appreciate this one in particular. So I just hope all my listeners out there wish me luck, because this is like the holy grail of movies if I could get my daughter to actually sit down and enjoy it.
Oh, this is the perfect movie for anybody who thinks that teen movies are stupid, because the way they point out some of the stupid things in teen movies, like, oh, Janie Briggs, she's got glasses and a ponytail. Oh, it's the ugliest girl in school.
That might be my favorite, funniest storyline of any movie in the 2000s. it's so awesome.
Yeah, the ugliest girl in school is glasses and a ponytail.
Yeah, we're gonna go through that. We're gonna go into our favorite moments of this movie. But yeah, there's very clever jokes. And again, if you look at the credits for this movie, it took 5 people to write it, which is usually a disaster, usually a warning sign.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get into the writers and stuff. I have some fun facts about that.
Okay. Yeah, so let's just dive right into this because again, we have a lot of fun stuff at the end of this podcast that I want to get to. So we'll do a cursory little run through of the plot just to get you familiarized with it. But yeah, the fun stuff is all going to be at the end. So make sure to hang around because we have some compiled some lists for you guys. This is going to be a fun one.
All right, let's go.
All right, so this movie, again, it was basically written as a parody of 90s teen movies, and then kind of at the last minute, they decided, well, we better throw some 80s stuff in there, too. So that is one thing you do notice as you go into it. It's very 90s-based, but it is the story of a football player named Jake Weiler, played by Chris Evans. Now, are you a Chris Evans fan?
Captain America, yeah, of course. Nowadays, yeah, but it's amazing to think he has humble beginnings.
Yeah, for I hate that I have to spell this out, but for completion's sake, Chris Evans obviously a big star now in all the Marvel movies, all the superhero movies, but he got his humble start here in Not Another Teen Movie as Jake Weiler. And I will say this personally that I was such a huge fan of this movie when I first saw it, and he was the guy that really stood out to me. I'm like, that guy's so good that he's going to be a star one day.
Oh, yeah.
And I read modern reviews of this movie now that say, oh, it's jarring to watch Not Another Teen Movie and seeing Chris Evans doing this silly comedy. It's hard for me to process that in my brain. And for me, it's just the opposite. For me, it's like, it's hard for me to process that Jake Weiler is now Captain America. It's weird to see. So it just depends on when you saw Chris Evans first.
Yeah, he was great in this. I always thought he's in another good like early 2000s movie, The Perfect Score.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an MTV movie. He's always been really good like that, so it's not surprising what he's gone on to do. It's just funny that this is his first feature film. What a debut.
What a debut. And then he did one called Cellular that I'm a big fan of as well in the 2000s.
Yes, Cellular. Was it Kim Basinger's in that one too, right?
Okay, I will do this. I was going to save this joke for my Cellular podcast, but yeah, Kim Basinger, widely known as not one of the brightest people in Hollywood. That was kind of her stereotype for many years, that she's not known for being especially well-spoken or intelligent. And in Cellular, she plays a science teacher, so I just have to give a shout out to that.
Gotta give her something.
Okay, yeah, so it's Jake Weiler, and he's Mr. Popular, the captain of the football team, and we have this wonderful shot at the start of the movie where he walks in and he, like, sees a picture of himself on the wall as, like, Mr. Popular, and he turns around and does a smirk to the camera, and it's just one of those scenes that endeared me to this movie the first time I saw it, because it's this perfect little Freddie Prinze impression.
Yeah, they do shot for shot. I think they make fun of his shoes, the shoes that he wears, and She's All That.
Yeah.
When he exits his car. And of course, his license plate says Filthy Rich.
Yeah, so Jake is Mr. Popular around campus, and he hangs out with his buddies. We have the fat guy, the football player. We have the cocky blonde guy, Austin. And we have probably the best running joke in this movie, the token black guy.
Yep. Played by Dean Richmond.
Yes. And again, these are all just tropes from teen movies that anybody who's seen these over the years would know. You got the one black kid in the movie, and they even have him saying in this movie that, well, I'm just here to nod and never be a part of the storyline, and he'll even say, I'm just here to say stuff like, shit.
Damn, shit. That is whack.
That is whack. Although later they add another one where he says, bling, bling.
Oh, yeah. That's when they have him in all the stereotypical, like in each scene, I think his hair changes where he's in cornrows in one scene, and then they have him in jerry curls. Like, they do a great job with him.
Yeah, that's the genius we're talking about with this movie, some of the background jokes. I never even noticed that they put him in cornrows.
The scene where he says bling bling, he's got like this big denim jacket on. He's always changing outfits if you look.
I'm surprised they don't have him in like a little buckwheat straw hat at some point. Just go all the way with the joke.
They should have.
And then So it's the story of him, Jake Weiler. He's Mr. Popular, and he's dating the head cheerleader played by Jamie Presley. Just, again, all these are just over-the-top stereotypes. They're doing all the things you see in any teen movie. Just the bitchy cheerleader. She's, like, mean and walks around campus insulting people. And she breaks up with Jake. She's dating this new guy named Les, who, for some reason, is played by the kid from American Beauty, the kid with the video camera in the bag.
Yeah. That's another thing where it's a stupid thing in a teen movie, even though American Beauty is not really a teen movie, but it's a stupid thing in a 90s movie. Like, this guy, the most beautiful thing he's ever seen is a plastic bag? What?
Yeah, I've always wondered why they chose American Beauty to be a teen movie, because, again, I would not classify that as a teen movie either.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, I don't know. It's just, again, what they're trying to point out, how stupid some of these plot points are in these late 90s movies with incest and thinking plastic bags are the most beautiful thing you've ever seen.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm a big fan of American Beauty, and I love that beautiful. You've seen it, right?
Oh, yeah, I love American Beauty, too.
Okay, yeah, and it's funny how they treat that whole bag and beauty as being super profound, and then in this movie they just tear it down, which I just love the glee with which they destroy that.
It is kind of funny because the first time you see American Beauty, you sort of appreciate that, but then when you watch this, you're like, yeah, that's pretty stupid. It's even written on the bag, the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It's printed out on the bag.
Yes. So we have the main character Jake, we have his little posse, including all his stereotypical friends, and now we have the female lead of the movie, Janie Briggs, who I absolutely love. I think she's so good in this movie. Her name is what? Kyler Lee?
Kyler Lee, I think it is.
Yeah, and I think she's really funny in this, and she's someone I haven't really followed before or after, but it's just one of those things. I think every character and actor in this movie is really good. And we open the movie, and this is near and dear to my heart, the opening of this movie.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, this is the one, if I do watch this movie with my daughter, this is the uncomfortable scene to sit through.
There's a couple, but they like to start it strong.
Yeah, this one starts with a bang. Again, anybody who's seen American Pie, very, very iconic teen movie, knows it starts with a scene where Jim is in his room at the start of the movie watching porn, and he, as teen boys do, he becomes engorged, and he starts pleasuring himself with a tube sock, and his parents walk in, and it's one of the most awkward scenes you're ever going to see in a movie. Well, this scene, they decide to flip that, and they decide to start with Janie Briggs, a girl watching, what is she watching? She's All That, I think, at the start.
Oh, great. I quoted it down. She's watching, it's supposed to be She's All That, but they never give a fake title. But if you listen to the dialogue, have you ever listened to the dialogue of what the two characters are saying?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's Freddie Prinze. He's saying, I met a whole other person inside of you. And the girl goes, there's a whole other person inside of both of us. Says, I would have never found that whole other person inside of me if it weren't for the whole other person inside of you. And she goes, well, the whole other person inside of me thinks the whole other person inside of you has come a long way. It's just great how cliche and cheesy some of those dialogues are.
Is that real dialogue from She's All That?
No, I don't think so. But they're just making fun of how cheesy it is in some of those movies. Yeah. I just thought that was great there.
And anyway, as we find out later in the movie, that Janie Briggs masturbates to She's All That.
Yeah, I masturbate to that movie.
I know. So the opening shot is her pulling out a vibrator and basically pleasuring herself to a teen movie as her parents walk in. It's just like American Pie.
Well, funny thing, they actually ended up they initially just wanted to make fun of the first American Pie with him, masturbating in his room. Mm-hmm. But the joke of the parents coming in and then the priest bringing all the children from her choir or whatever it is, that was unintentional. They unintentionally made fun of the second movie, too, because that's the opening of American Pie 2, which was filming at the same time of Not Another Teen Movie, where he's having sex with his girl in his college dorm room, and his parents walk in with the cake and stuff. Like, they were ahead of the curve on that.
That's unintentional. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, like you said, everybody comes walking in as Janie's got a vibrator basically inserted into herself, and it's her grandparents walk in, and then the priest from the local youth center with all the kids that she mentors, and they're carrying balloons.
Janie's making weird faces. It smells in here.
So this is literally the first 2 minutes of the movie. So
yeah, 90 seconds in.
Yeah, so you know what to expect when they start off with the perfect female parody of American Pie. And it is funny when I read the reviews. I read the Roger Ebert review, and he says, "Oh, that opening scene, it's embarrassing with the vibrator." I'm like, "What movie are you watching? Why is that not funny to you?"
What a stingy guy he was.
You know, I think Ebert needed to watch She's All That a couple more times. Maybe you want to relax some tension in him, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, so this is our lead, Janie Briggs. And again, this is why this movie is so beloved, this plot twist, and that any 80s, 90s teen movie, what they love to do is they would love to make a girl awkward, because they love having awkward females in movies like, coming of age, finding their confidence. And they would always take a hot actress and just kind of ugly her up by giving her glasses and a ponytail.
Mm-hmm.
And then in this movie, they double down on that. They literally take this Kyler Lee, who is super hot, and they literally just put glasses on a ponytail, and they don't even try to ugly her up. She's still hot, but throughout the whole movie, everyone talks about how hideous she is because she has glasses and a ponytail. And the third thing, she has overalls. She's an artist. Oh, she's got paint on her overalls. She's hideous.
Paint-covered overalls. And that's the actual opening shot, I think, when they're panning to her bed. It's actually the paint on her overalls on the floor, like the dirty clothes.
Again, just so many little in-jokes, just the way they focus on stuff. You'll hear background characters saying stuff.
Yeah, visually, this movie is perfect. They really do such a good job. Where you don't need to know any references or anything like that.
Yeah, well, they flat out spell it out at the start of the movie. It's this opening scene. It's John Hughes High School, which right off the bat they say they give homage to their mentor. And they have a tour guide basically showing people around the school. Oh, there's all the
Ted
jocks.
Mosby.
It's Ted Mosby. Yeah, it's the guy from How I Met Your Mother. What is his name? Josh Radnor? Yeah, so you have a douchey Ted Mosby making a cameo in this movie, and he's always making little oblique references to how stereotypical this school is.
Yeah, he's pointing out, like, hey, you jocks need to separate into that corner. Hey, these are your friends for the next 4 years.
Okay, so the crux of this movie is that Jake has been dumped by his girlfriend, and he's been challenged by his friends that, Mr. Popular, I bet you can't take any girl here and make her the prom queen. And he's like, bets on, I'm Mr. Cool, which again is really just She's All That.
Yeah, it's the exact same plot.
So they have to pick a girl for him to make the prom queen, and there's all these hideous girls at the school. You have like the freakish albino hippie singer.
The conjoined twins, the Fratelli sisters.
And the one that I forgot, there's the hunchback. There's like Quasimodo girl just walks around and lurches through the quad.
Oh, really? I forgot that one. That's really quick. A hunchback?
Yeah, it's right at the start. Yeah, the hunchback. So they turn down all these other girls because they're not hideous enough. They're trying to pick the most hideous as what's the exact word that his friend uses?
I'm talking about a real shit bomb.
Yes. And the biggest shit bomb they can find is Janie Briggs because she has glasses and a ponytail.
And paint on her overalls. Don't forget about that. It's disgusting.
And they just really play this up with all the friends just, oh, God, Janie Briggs, not her nose. Look at those glasses.
I love the way that Chris Evans says, oh, Janie Briggs. Oh. Just disgusted. Like, you gotta be a really good actor to act disgusted.
Yes. So this is the plot of the movie. They've bet him he can't take ugly Janie Briggs and turn her into a prom queen. And this will become the whole storyline of the movie. And basically, you know where it's going to go from there. He's gonna bet, she's gonna fall for him. He's gonna screw it up. Then they're gonna fall in love, and she's gonna learn it. As the token black guy says, you're gonna learn a valuable life lesson along the way.
You know what? That was really thoughtful and insightful. Should appreciate you more.
Okay, so besides all this, that's really the plot of the movie, and after that, it's really just side characters and side jokes and references to movies and all sorts, just dozens and dozens of them. And man, what do you think? Should we actually go into the movie more, or do you want to start going into the stuff we like about it?
Yeah, we might as well just list off things that we like about it. I want to set it up with the director, Joel Gallen.
Mm-hmm.
Him and the writers, Mike Bender. I know Mike Bender is one of the main writers, and there's a few other ones I can't really remember off the top of my head. But these guys actually worked at MTV in like the 90s and the early 2000s. And Joel Gallen was actually the director or the producer of all those MTV spoofs that they would do at the movie awards. Are you familiar with those?
I don't remember specific ones, but I do remember those being a big thing.
Oh yeah, it was a big deal. Like MTV every year at the movie awards, they would have these skits where they would make fun of whatever the popular movie was. I know some really popular one. There was a Spider-Man one with Jack Black. They had a Matrix one with Will Ferrell that was really funny. Just a bunch of them, and they were really, really good and funny. Andy Dick was in a bunch of them. So these guys had a lot of practice making fun of all of these movies for years. They've been doing it since the 90s. There's even, I think in 1999, Jamie Presley, who was in this movie, was actually in one of the spoofs. I think she did the makeout scene from, was it Cruel Intentions?
Mm-hmm.
She actually did the makeout scene with another actress for the MTV Movie Awards. So you got there's a connection there. And it's a reason why this movie is so good and why they do such a good job at recreating all the sets and working with the actual dialogue of the movie. Sometimes they would just like dub the dialogue from the movie and just insert the actor in and make jokes off of that. It's really good.
Okay, yeah, I had no idea this movie had such a pedigree behind it. So that actually explains quite a bit, that if you had people that were already doing this kind of humor.
Yeah, it shows on why this is so, polished and well done. This guy's been doing it since the 90s, I think.
Okay, so at the risk of making this an hour and a half podcast, I think we're going to stop the summary of the movie and we're just going to go into little details about this movie, why we love it so much. Yeah, because I think we literally have a list of like 30 or 40 things each.
Yeah, I got about 5 pages.
I know. So, and we're going to do our best to explain this to you as if you've never seen this movie. So, Kevin, that's the plan here. We're talking to people who are on the fence. Maybe they haven't seen this movie. Explain a joke and why you think it's so amazing. Are we good for that?
Yes.
All right. So, I will start here with one. Here's a little great instance of why this movie is so clever, just jokes on top of jokes on top of jokes. If you don't know where this movie was filmed, it was filmed at Torrance High in Torrance, California. And I know that just because I used to live down there. When I first moved to California in 1999, I moved to Torrance, and Torrance High School is literally right down the street. And what's funny about that high school is that it was used for other high schools and very, very many famous things, including 90210, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I think maybe the original She's All That. I'm not sure if it was there or not, but this is a place that historically is known for where teen movies are filmed. This is the ground zero of teen movies. So they used Torrance High for this movie just because that's where every other movie and TV show was filmed as well. So just a little meta in-joke that you may recognize when you watch the movie.
Yeah, I think they even used the exterior for Preston's party as the actual Ferris Bueller's house in Long Beach, right?
It is, yeah, it's the same house, yeah. So
yeah.
Just little stuff, and they don't even spell these jokes out. You just kind of have to know this, and that's why I appreciate this movie. It's so good on repeat viewings. The more you learn about teen movies and the stories behind them, the more you will appreciate this movie. So there's my first little thing that I love about this movie.
So yeah, visually, if you could pause any scene in this movie and sort of look in the background, there's a lot of funny signs. There's so much. A couple of the really good ones, the cafeteria is named the Anthony Michael Dining Hall.
Mm-hmm.
If you look in the background of the gym, I think when they're trying to sneak into the girls' locker room, there's a lineup for the latest sports team's game, and it's the Wasps, their team's Wasps versus the Stray Cats. I always thought that was funny. Let's see. The breakfast scene club has the clock. Clock is 20 minutes fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good callback reference to Breakfast Club.
One thing in the background you didn't mention is there's actually one joke in this movie that they screwed up, that they blew the reference. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
They screwed up. No, I don't.
All right. When you're in the Anthony Michael Dining Hall, there's a food cart in the back.
Oh, the hot dogs. Yes, yeah. It's supposed to be carrots.
Yeah, it's supposed to be carrots. It's a reference to Fast Times at Ridgemont High. They have a food cart in the cafeteria, and it's hot dogs. It's a guy giving away hot dogs, and the producers meant it to be a reference to Fast Times at Ridgemont High, where Phoebe Cates is teaching how to give blowjobs and she's using a carrot. They screwed it up and they thought it was a hot dog, so it's actually a blown joke. That should be a carrot stand back there.
Well, they got a couple other Fast Times references right. If you look when Ricky is chasing Jake at the end, mm-hmm. and he's crossing the street and trying to avoid all the cars, if you look in the background, there's a Spicoli TV and stereo repair.
Yes, I did see that.
Jeff Spicoli's dad's got the ultimate set of tools.
Yeah.
And then in the classroom for the toilet scene, written on the chalkboard, it says, "I don't know." from the famous scene from Fast Times.
I love that. Yeah, the I don't know on the chalkboard. And I will say I do remember the first time I saw this movie as you're watching it and they're just unspooling all these references to teen movies. I was a little disappointed they didn't hit Fast Times a little harder. But yeah, there are a couple little things in the background, and they do use the songs Somebody's Baby during the chase scene at the end. But
Oh yeah, that's another thing with the music.
yeah, oh yeah, the music is amazing. They have so many classic references to music, to songs and scenes in teen movies that it's amazing when you start listening for it.
Well, we'll get into the music. There's a few other visual references that I gotta mention. Let's see. There's when the guys are talking about, hey, there's an undercover reporter posing as a high school student. There's a sign in the background that says explicitly, there is an undercover reporter posing as a high school student at this school. When the guys enter the vent before they try to sneak into the girls' bathroom, it says maximum capacity 2 adolescent boys. Oh, and what about the pies in the Briggs household?
Yeah, okay, yeah, that was on my list as well.
All the pies with the holes in them. Do you notice during the end when Jake visits their house and they're under the table, the piece of lettuce with the hole in it?
No.
Oh my God, you got to watch it again. There's a piece of lettuce and there's just a giant hole right in the corner. Ran out of pies.
Yeah, we're gonna try not to go too much into the Chris Farley show here, where we start saying, "Hey, remember this?" But yeah, for people who don't know, yeah, Janie's dad, she's like from the white trash side of town. She's on from the other side of the tracks, and her dad is like this embarrassing Vietnam vet played by Randy Quaid, and he apparently has sex with every piece of food in their house. You don't see it explicitly until the very end, where he jams pies into his crotch. But if you look, every single piece of food in his house has a hole in it. Meaning, again, he's been banging it like Jim in American Pie, including, as Kevin said, the lettuce that apparently, I wouldn't think the lettuce would be satisfying. I'm not sure for our vegan friends. Maybe somebody could tell me, but I don't know. But yeah, the lettuce sex, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's about it. Also, Cody McMains, does he remind you of Ethan Embry, who from Can't Hardly Wait? I feel like that's why he was cast. He looks exactly like him.
Which one is Cody McMains? I don't know all the actor names.
Mitch.
Yeah, Mitch is in the movie is Janie's little brother. He's played by this guy Cody McMains, and they tend to rotate his character based on which movie they're spoofing. Like at one point,
he plays a bunch of different ones. He's John
Anthony
Bender.
Michael Hall, yeah, then he's Bender from Breakfast Club. Yeah, he's all over the place. He kind of does remind me of Ethan. Yeah, that's probably why he was cast.
Yeah, he looks just like him. I thought that was a pretty cool visual nod too.
I'm going to move on to my next thing that I appreciate about this movie. And this is one that's near and dear to my heart because I just loved when they would take these little tropes that I always found stupid and annoying. They're not even the major tropes of the movie. But in the 90s, it became a big thing that you'd always have like the little white kid that talked like a rapper, like Seth Green historically, the little white suburban kid who thought he was black. Yeah. And in this movie, they take that trope, which again was all over the place in every movie at the time, but they make him Asian instead.
Yeah, they go the other way with it.
So it's the white kid talking like he's an Asian kid. And he's like, yeah, what up, my chinks? And like all the Asian kids are like, what the fuck? Get away from me.
And then there's the white guys that are trying to act like the black guys, like, that guy's white, man. Can't he see that, yo?
Yes. I just appreciated they took that trope and it's the exact same things you were seeing in every movie at the time, but now it's a kid pretending to be Asian, which again was not something you would historically see in a movie, and that is Sam Levine from Freaks and Geeks. But he doesn't do much in this movie, but I just appreciate that he's there for no reason. We're just making fun of this the suburban rap kids trope.
And I always thought they were trying to go for a long duck dong thing with him. That's like another 80s reference, probably.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I never thought about that. But yeah, it's most definitely a Long Duck Dong. And he's quite embarrassing in the movie. But you know what? So is Long Duck Dong. So it was a perfect representation.
Yes.
All right, so what do you got? What's next on your list? Something little that stands out about this movie.
The game that Jake blew, they were up 42-0.
Yes, okay, yeah, I'm going to set the scene for people. There's a football game in this movie. And they really tread heavily on Varsity Blues. That's a movie they go back to time and time again in this movie. But there's a little Lucas in here as well, which is a very obscure 80s movie to be referencing. Yeah. But yeah, we go Lucas. So set the stage for our Varsity Blues / Lucas parody in this movie.
So it's the football game. I think they're up 42-0. Jake Weiler, star quarterback. And for some reason, the coach is throwing little, what do they call him? Marty?
Marty, yeah, we have a special needs kid on the football team for some reason, and it's again Go back to the movie Lucas, this little tiny kid in glasses who's borderline retarded. You throw him onto the football team for some reason, he's on there, and it's like the last play of the season. We're going to put him in the game. It's like Rudy Rudiger, throw him in there just so the kid can have a chance. So yeah, Marty, who's half the size of anybody on the team with these giant glasses, they put him into the football game.
Yeah, so they put him in. They set up the play. I think that they have that scene where they're all like pushing him down the line, and then they started. Marty gets his own moment, and then he catches the ball in the end zone. And then what happens? Two huge 200-pound football players collide into Marty and crush him in half and cut his body open into two pieces.
Yeah, it's the first movie you're ever going to see where a special needs kid is torn in half on a football field.
And the visual effects are especially good on it. The guts and stuff. It actually looks pretty gruesome.
And again, you wouldn't even know that's a reference to Lucas unless you know your 80s movies. And I have to say there's a great follow-up to this scene where after Marty is torn in half by the football players, and it haunts Jake, our main hero, has killed the little special needs kid, and it haunts him. And later in the movie, he's given a second chance to go into a football game and redeem himself. And as he's walking onto the field, you hear just someone in the background, some oblique comment from the crowd. Somebody yells, "Do it for Marty's torso!"
Yeah, there's a lot of off-screen character mentions. Like, I think when they're announcing the prom king, somebody's like, Marty for prom king.
Yeah, just endless rewatch value on this movie. Just listen for the side comments and the background comments, people yelling stuff.
Yeah, there's so many all throughout the movie.
All right.
And it's great, yeah.
All right, so we go to here's another thing that I like about this movie. We go to the movie Cruel Intentions quite a bit, and I've never actually seen all of that movie. I've seen obviously the greatest hits. I know basically what it's about. And we have a wonderful character in this movie named Catherine, who is played by Mia Kirshner, and she is basically a dead-on parody of Sarah Michelle Gellar from Cruel Intentions. Is that the right movie? Cruel Intentions, right?
Yes.
And she's just this cruel girl, and in Cruel Intentions, it's a brother and stepsister. They have this weird incestuous relationship where she's always trying to sleep with him. And in this one, we drop the step, and they're just straight up blood relatives, and she's always trying to bang her brother, which is one of the dicier storylines in this movie, that she's always trying to have sex with her brother. And I always love Catherine's first line. Again, she steals almost every scene she's in this movie because she's so horrible. And we're introduced to her in high school the very first day. She walks up to her brother, and she says, "Why do guys always try to stick it in my ass?" So if you're wondering for best first lines in a movie.
It's great. It's actually the entire Weiler household that's trying to encourage the incest, because I think, his father is trying to get his mother to make coitus with him.
All right, there's another little scene I think people might not remember if you haven't seen this movie in a while, that, yeah, apparently Jake's sister is not the only one trying to sleep with a blood relative under the roof. Let's go to the dad's scene here.
So what is he? I think Jake comes into his room, and his dad is trying to really encourage his son to follow in his footsteps to the T, exactly. So he wants him to go to Princeton.
From Varsity Blues.
Yeah, it's exactly like Varsity Blues. He's got to be the star quarterback and all that. I think he even says the quote, "I don't want your life," or something like that.
I don't want your life.
I don't want your life. But it's great if you look at this like plaque of the wall of Jake's accomplishments. He's photoshopped Jake's picture into Jake's father's own pictures, like his Princeton graduation and his wedding day, him marrying his own mother.
Yes. All right, yeah, so the joke there is that the dad wants the son to follow in his footsteps in every way possible. Be a star football player, go to Princeton. And we're going to up the stakes here by when Jake was dumped by his girlfriend, the dad's going to say, "Well, I have another girlfriend for you. Here's Mom." And so Mom comes in and she sits down. She looks all expectant, thinking Jake is going to, like, basically have sex with her. And Dad's like, "Here's your gift." So, yeah, I kind of forgot about that. But, yeah, the Weiler household perhaps could use some counseling.
Indeed, yeah. It's another thing. It's just a crazy plot point of Cruel Intentions we're really popularizing incest. It's really the main storyline in this big budget movie. And so they really went with that and went full on with the incest.
Yeah, it's surprising that Roger Ebert did not like this movie.
Yeah, I don't know what he didn't see.
I should point out just another little visual detail that if you pay attention, when that whole scene where Jake's in his bedroom and the dad's trying to get the mom to sleep with him, that's the same bedroom from American Pie. That's Jim's bedroom. They have it decorated exactly the same.
I think even Catherine's bedroom is the exact same bedroom from Cruel Intentions. Like they recreated the sets exactly. It's great.
Okay, another little thing that we like about this movie, and this is something near and dear to my heart again, like I say that about every one of these things, but there's one character in this movie who never gets spoken about, and I think he low-key might be the funniest guy in the movie, and that's Ricky.
Oh, God.
Janie's got a best friend, and this is basically, if you've seen Pretty in Pink, this is basically Ducky, the asexual best friend who's always hanging around Janie and trying to hit on her, and she never notices that he has the hots for her because she's going to fall for the cool guy instead. And this guy Ricky is so amazing in this movie. Every single scene he's in, he's fantastic. I don't even know the actor's name. I just remember he's pining for Janie. He gives her mixtapes. He stands by her and just gazes at her at her locker. One of the greatest scenes in the movie, he's reading this poem in class. Like, was it 10 Things I Love About Janie?
Yeah, 10 Things I Love About Janie. It's supposed to be 10 Things I Hate About You, yeah.
Yeah, it's so great, that poem. I wish I could quote it. Just the way the actor sells how much in love with Janie he is, and she has no idea. So I will just give a shout out to Ricky.
Ricky kills it. Yeah, the acting in this movie is great, and especially in that scene, he totally sells how just sadly in love he is. I love following Janie to the mall. He's like choked up, and he loves the little hairballs part.
Little Janie balls.
He really kills it in that. Little Janie hairballs. And then he just cries off. He can't finish.
Yeah, Ricky forever will be shunned and cast aside. He will never get his way. We will go through this whole movie him pining for Janie. He has this stupid little purple hat on. He's got these little mork suspenders. Just the biggest 80s dork. And again, he will never win. That's the thing with Ricky. At the end of the movie, we have this thing with him and Jake are going to be chasing after Janie, and he'll get like run over by a car. Like all the people.
He gets wrecked.
He gets destroyed. So Ricky, the low-key MVP of this movie, just absolutely steals any scene he's in.
Yeah, he's the tragic character of this movie.
Yes. All right, what do you got next?
I got a fun fact. Are you aware of the controversy with the character of Areola?
I am picturing about 10 different controversies. I'm curious which one specifically you would mention here.
Well, there's a specific one. I was young when I first saw this movie, so it was a bit of a shock to me that the actress who played Areola, I forgot her name, Serena Vincent or something, was actually played the Yellow Power Ranger in one of the early series of the Power Rangers.
Okay, to sell this joke, explain to people who might not know this movie, who is Areola in this movie, and why is this a big deal?
Areola is basically, she portrays the Nadia character from American Pie, who is the foreign exchange student who is only there for poor nerds who cannot get American pussy.
Yes.
And she is topless throughout the entire film.
Yeah, she never wears a shirt. She just walks around school. Not only is she topless, she has a see-through plastic backpack, so you can see through even her accoutrements, her clothing. Yeah, she just walks around topless the entire movie.
And it's another great visual bit where she has subtitles because she speaks in sort of a foreign accent, and then even the subtitles are spaced, in between her breasts.
Yes. So why was this a controversy? Because the Yellow Power Ranger, because you saw her breasts?
Well, I mean, it wasn't really controversial, but it was a little jarring as a young viewer. If anybody who grew up watching the Yellow Power Ranger got a whole different view of her if you ever watched this movie.
Yeah, and again, I just have to point out the meta joke here. Anybody who, it's not so much in 90s teen movies, but in 80s teen movies, obviously, there was always topless girls in the movie. They were just gratuitous. That was 100% correlated with teen movies. So we're just going to go all the way with it and not another teen movie and have a character who is always topless, even at a football game in the cold, where she's standing out there with like a little, isn't it, she has like little hand warmers or muffs around her hands?
She's just wearing a scarf and like maybe muffs, I think.
Yeah, and she's still topless. All right, I have to say a little good visual joke here. Here's one that's going to blow people's minds where there's a scene at the end of the movie where Areola, our topless girl, is leaning out a window, and a little cartoon bird settles down and sits on her breast. And it's like a little, was it Snow White or Cinderella? I forget what that is. But
I think it's one of those like Disney princess birds or something like that. Didn't they get the rights to use the actual animation?
I believe they did, but do you know the inside joke there? What kind of bird settles onto her breast?
Oh, I'm not familiar with the type of bird.
The type of bird that settles onto Areola's perky breast is known as a blue tit.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I just read about that on some trivia page the other day they intentionally picked a tit as the bird that lands on her. So there is your levels of humor in this movie you might not be aware of until you watch it a couple times.
Yeah, it's why this movie's so great. They really go deep with the humor. It's not just slapstick toilet humor that a lot of these spoof movies are known for. It's really, really smart.
Well, I guess we do have to address the elephant in the room there, the actual toilet humor scene then.
Oh God, yeah. I really don't enjoy this scene, but
Yeah.
it's really, they do a good job with it because as gross as that toilet, well, let's set it up with what is it? Mitch and his two friends are trying to sneak into the girl's bathroom, and they're doing it through the vents, and eventually they get above a girl who enters into a stall and is relieving herself. As you mentioned earlier, there's a sign that the maximum capacity was 2 adolescent boys, and there's 3 of them in there. And eventually the vent breaks, the toilet explodes, and then under a classroom, under the floor, and
Yeah, everyone just basically gets covered with shit. This is the thing with this movie. I think this is almost a flawless comedy movie as parodies go. But you got the one scene at the start that's a little embarrassing, this poop scene or crap scene, whatever you want to call it, where literally the pipes break, everybody in the class gets covered with excrement. But I will say in this movie's defense, they realize how stupid this scene is. So
yeah.
It's one of these things you might not remember if you haven't seen it in a while, that right before this toilet scene happens and everything, the shit hits the fan, literally, the teacher in the class is talking about how, the kids in the class are bored by Shakespeare. They don't want to read it or something. And he's going on a big rant about, because that's all you adolescents today want to see. You just want to see bathroom humor. You want to see crude humor. Like, you don't want to see well-written comedy or satire. You just want to see bathroom.
Sublime poetic genius of a clever turn of phrase. That is true comedy.
Yes.
Your modern, moronic, feeble-minded, sophomoric excuse for wit is merely a parade of nasty, filthy, vulgar excrement.
Yes. And then right after he says that, he literally gets covered with shit when the entire bathroom falls on him. So I will say, that even though that's a stupid scene and I really wish it wasn't in this movie, the producers are trying to make a point because they even point out, this is all that kids want to see. You just want to see people covered in shit. Well, here you go, and that's exactly what we see. So it's a little more meta than you tend to remember, but I do, of course, wish that scene wasn't in here because that's, like I said, when I finally show this movie to my daughter, and again, she's going to be dragging her feet, that scene is right at the start of the movie, and that's the one I'm like, she's going to be, this is stupid. And I'm like, I wish that scene wasn't there because that's the one that kind of undercuts this movie.
Yeah, I hate that scene too, but if it has to be in there, and I think they wanted it to be in there just because that was sort of getting popular in sort of 90s and 2000s movies, that raunchy, nasty kind of humor with like Freddy Got Fingered and American Pie and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So they wanted to touch on it. And if that scene had to be in that movie, they did a good enough job with it, with that, soliloquy that the teacher goes on with. So it's whatever.
Yeah. Although, speaking of tasteless humor, I'm going to go to the next thing on my list, and this is Sandy Sue the cheerleader.
Oh, I loved this as a kid. This was the funniest thing. I found this hilarious.
Now, I know this will sound very insensitive, and I apologize in advance, but I'm a comedian, and I only think of things in comedic sense, usually. Tourette syndrome has got to be one of the most underused funny things in movies that they do not use often enough. And for people who don't know, Tourette's it's a involuntary neurological thing where you have tics, and you scream things when you're not expecting to scream them. And it's a real condition. A lot of people think it means you just swear, and that's not really what Tourette's is. Tourette's is just involuntary, pronunciations and stuff. But in this movie, we have a cheerleader who has Tourette's syndrome, where her name is Sandy Sue, and she looks just like, Olivia Newton-John in Grease. She's like Miss Prim and Proper 50s cheerleader girl, and she gets up there to do her cheers, and then she unleashes a torrent of profanity, which is wonderful. I love the way the actress does it, and it's almost guaranteed to make you laugh the first time you see it, the Tourette's cheerleader. And I'm not going to try to quote her. Perhaps you may have quoted her. You may have written down her exact phrases. But she says things that are not especially pleasant.
Well, the one in particular I liked was when I think they let her lead her own cheer at the football game. So she starts off like, give me an A, give me a B, and then she goes, give me a lick my pussy ass cock shit. My God. But it's funny humor. I didn't. I particularly remember that as a child. I just thought that was the funniest thing. The Tourette's girl as a cheerleader.
And the crowd responds, right? They actually do yell that.
Yeah, they actually respond. You like my pussy ass? That's a great scene.
Yeah, again, I apologize. I know people that that may be an affliction that affects somebody who's listening to this, but as a comic trope, that's about as good as it gets. I encourage more people use Tourette's as a comic device because it's always funny.
And you should apologize to your conjoined twin listeners as well, because one of my favorite jokes is when Austin asked Jake, "Hey, you still taking that four-eyed freak to the prom?" Speaking about Janie, and then the conjoined twins actually show up and say, "Hey, we take offense to that."
And of course, do you know the joke with the conjoined twins' names? Who they're named after?
Oh no, I forgot their names. I know that. What are they? The Fratelli sisters? Is that the Goonies? I don't know.
Yeah, that's your Goonies reference for some reason. Yeah, they named the Fratellis after the Goonies.
What are they supposed to be like? The modern day sloth?
I don't know. The 80s references in this movie are kind of phoned in, so I will say they only half-heartedly went for the Goonies reference there. But again, it's enough to acknowledge it. All right, so another scene here. We have the Breakfast Club scene, and just one of the iconic scenes in this movie where they recreate the famous Breakfast Club scene with Paul Gleason coming in and having it out with Bender.
He reprises his role as Dick Vernon. How great is that?
Yeah, Gleason was available. I was very excited that they brought him in. And yeah, he gets in a big fight with Mitch, and what is it? In the real Breakfast Club, Mitch gets a bunch of Bender gets a bunch of detentions, and they basically recreate it in this one. And again, I don't want to just spell it out word for word. If you haven't seen it, just Google "Not Another Teen Movie Breakfast Club Scene," and it's one of the most famous scenes in this movie.
Yeah, this is one of the funnier ones, and it reminds me exactly of the type of skits that they would have at the movie award spoofs, where it works because they actually get Paul Gleason to play his actual character, and it's what they would do in those ones for the MTV Movie Awards, where they would take footage from the actual film, and they didn't need to do that here. They got the actual guy to play his character. It was great.
Okay, I'm going to do one more here, then I'll hand it off to you. But one other thing I love about this movie, just a little detail, was Randy Quaid plays Janie Briggs' dad, and he's based on just an amalgam of all these other dads in teen movies where he's supportive yet crazy, just loving but crude. And at one point, like, Janie's like, how do I get this boy Jake to like me? Like, he asked me to prom. Like, what should I do? And he's like, well, honey, I think you should do it because, Lord knows you could use the popularity points, which I love that
line. It's
just
the worst advice ever. But it's given so lovingly, you kind of buy it.
But I forget which movie, again, this is where I show my ignorance, where the dad always has a nickname for his daughter. Is that 10 Things I Hate About You, where he's always got a nickname for his daughter?
That I'm not sure. That's really a deep cut for anybody to remember.
We're going to get reamed here because I know somebody out there who masturbates to 10 Things I Hate About You knows this, but there's one of the dads in one of these teen movies always has an endearing nickname for his daughter, and they keep it up in this movie too with Randy Quaid, where he gives Janie Briggs some great advice about dating, and then she says, thanks, Dad, and he's like, anytime, pumpkin tits. That's the thing. I don't even know which movie that's referencing. I just know it's referencing a movie, and that's good enough for me.
It's just a funny term of endearment. Be calling your daughter especially.
All right, what do you got on your list here?
I just have two more things. I really love their use of cameos. We talked about Paul Gleason, but Sean Patrick Thomas makes a cameo as the other token black guy at the party.
Yes. Yeah, the token black guy meets another black guy at the party, and they have an existential crisis because you can't have two black guys at the same party. And I believe they even say the same lines where they say shit, damn, and that is whack.
I just love that they really got a guy who's actually played the token black guy in a rom-com before.
Yeah. Like, hey, what are you doing here? What? I'm supposed to be the black guy.
This is my movie, man. Come on. What is it? Mr. T is in there. Melissa Joan Hart. Ferris Bueller's dad plays Jake's dad.
Yes.
Bunch of weird ones. And the big one, Molly Ringwald.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're sitting through this whole movie for the first time waiting for the cameos. You see these cameos popping up left and right, and you're like, Molly Ringwald or Anthony Michael Hall, somebody's going to show up at the end. They have to. And sure enough, Molly Ringwald shows up at the very last scene of the movie where not only does she basically rip the cliches out of the kids' mouths before they say them, but she even curses them out and calls them stupid fucking teenagers. So, way to go, Molly Ringwald.
She did a great job with that one, and I can't believe she actually was down with doing that movie.
Yeah, they must have paid her an awful lot because she
Yeah.
is known for being kind of a recluse. She doesn't like being associated with these teen movies. And I know she and John Hughes had like a big breakup where she just stopped doing teen movies altogether. So yeah, I will say on the 0.001 chance that Molly Ringwald is listening to this, thank you for being a good sport. It added a lot to the movie. All right, so I have a couple other things here. I actually still have about 30, but I'll do my best to whittle these down. All right, so a couple scenes here that I think are just fantastic, where especially one where Jake is trying to seduce Janie, and he comes out in the whipped cream bikini, which is right out of Varsity Blues.
Yeah.
That was a big iconic scene at the time where Jake has, whipped cream over his breasts and little cherries and stuff, and it's a perfect parody of Varsity Blues. And at one point he says, well, this isn't a sundae, it's a banana split. And you don't realize what he's talking about until he turns around and you see the banana protruding from his butt in a big pile of whipped cream.
These are the humble beginnings that we were talking about.
Captain America right there.
Captain America for you, folks.
And I guess we have to mention the scene. We would be remiss if we did not mention the I will set this one up because this will kill if you've never seen it before, where Jake Weiler is trying to get Janie to go out with him, and his cruel stepsister says, well, one thing you can do is write a song or find a song with her name in
God,
it.
yeah. You're going to talk about this? All right.
And go sing her song to her in front of everybody, and she'll be impressed. So I love I love the thought process behind this joke where so Jake goes up on the school bleachers at the football stadium. They're outdoors, and all the art students are down painting on the field in the quad down there. And he starts singing the one song he can think of that has Janie's name in it, which is the Aerosmith classic Janie's Got a Gun. So he starts singing Janie's Got a Gun. He's got the little scarf hanging down from his microphone, just like Steven Tyler. And he's got Janie's got a gun, Janie Briggs got a gun. And rather than her being impressed, what this does is this causes a security breach where one of the other students is horrified. He says, oh my God, Janie's got a gun! And everybody flees, and now the cops come running down and they tase poor Janie because she apparently has a gun on a school campus. And I'm just guessing that joke would not be in a 2018 movie, The Gun on the Campus.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is probably one of the jokes that really doesn't age well at all.
You know what? I don't care because it's funny.
I found it funny initially, but as I was rewatching this, I sort of was cringing at this one, like, oh, geez.
Well, you know what? There's two things that sell it for this movie. This scene for me is that Janie runs away and gets tased by the cops as a big chase, and then the embarrassed reaction of Jake up in the stands realizing he just got Janie tased, and he like drops the mic and slinks away.
Oh man, great scene.
All right, so we're in the kind of the second part of the movie here. What do we got here? I would say we got about 15, 20 minutes to play around with here. Anything else you want to talk about? Because I still have a whole list if you want me to go into them, or anything specifically you want to mention that you like about this movie still.
Well, the only other thing that we haven't talked about so far is the music, which is so perfect, it's not even funny. What they do is they have a bunch of modern bands at the time from the 90s and 2000s covering a lot of classic 80s songs, and some that were actually in some of the movies that they're making fun of, which is great. So, for example, like I think the Breakfast Club scene, they have Don't You Forget About Me covered by Sprung Monkey played for that scene, which is great. Somebody's Baby by Jackson Browne they had covered by Phantom Planet. That was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It was really great. And do you know the Amanda Becker song?
Yeah, that's Kiss Me by Sixpence None the Richer, right?
No. The one, it's sort of an instrumental when she makes her grand entrance and everything slows down. It's not Kiss Me. It's actually a song called Boner by Sloppy Seconds.
I had no idea.
Which I was looking at the soundtrack. That's so great. The song's called Boner. It's this precious little song that comes in anytime Amanda comes in, which is Mitch's crush. It's the stereotypical nerdy guy who wants to talk to the popular girl. But every time she enters in a scene, everybody slows down, and this song comes on. It's a little like precious little number. It's really slow. It's piano, and it's called Boner by Sloppy Seconds.
There's a great meta joke there that I feel we should mention as well. That for people who don't know, there's the dream girl, Amanda Becker. She walks in, and every time she walks in a room, everything slows down, and they can't talk until she moves. And it's really making fun of Jennifer Love Hewitt in Can't Hardly Wait, which is it's a wonderful meta joke because the actress playing Amanda Becker is Lacey Chabert, who was Jennifer Love Hewitt's sister in Party of Five. So she's really playing her TV sister. So there's another little meta joke there.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. I think even did we mention earlier Ron Lester plays the exact same character from Varsity Blues?
Oh, you mean Reggie Ray?
Reggie Ray, yeah, he played the exact same guy. Ron Lester plays Billy Bob in Varsity Blues, and he plays Reggie Ray in this. It's amazing.
Okay, I'm going to skim through a couple things just quickly that we haven't mentioned, and we'll get reamed if we don't mention them. There's the slow clap running joke in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Another little thing that I just love is that was kind of becoming the trope in 90s teen movies where someone would always do a slow clap, like to get the audience and everyone to appreciate what just happened, like a big moment. And it didn't start in the 90s. They have one of those as far back as Lucas. They have a slow clap at the end of that movie too. And there's the one character in this movie who's forever trying to start a slow clap, but he can never figure out what the appropriate time to do it is. And so it becomes a great running gag that he's trying to figure out what's the appropriate moment. And then at the end of the movie, he finally gets the appropriate moment, and then someone else starts the slow clap first, and it winds up in a big fist fight. Yeah, Ricky.
Ricky gets his moment.
Yeah, so that's another big running joke in the movie. Just a little visual joke that I always liked in this movie. There's a scene where there's a big party, and they do this big party scene where a kid's getting ready. His parents are going out of town. They're going to have a big party where all the characters are going to show up. And it's really an homage to Ferris Bueller and Risky Business. It's kind of shot in the first person.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a great shot where the nerds in this movie are going to drive to the party. It's this big road trip. They're going to lose their virginity. And they get in their car, and they start playing the Cars song, Let's Go, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like road trip. And they literally just drive 2 houses away and then stop and get out.
I don't even think they cross a street. Yeah, the same block.
Such a neat little visual joke. It always makes me laugh when I watch that. They literally only drive about 100 feet, and that's their road trip. All right, so let's see. I'm going through my notes here. I absolutely do not want to miss any of the big scenes because I don't want to get killed because, again, I know my listeners. They know this movie inside and out. Another great joke here where there's a scene where Janie's painting in the basement, and Jake walks down, and he's going to, they're going to make up. They had a big fight, and he's going to make up with her. And she tells the story about how her mother died and how it's tragic.
I love the jokes in the scene.
One day my mother went out, and she was going out to buy her daughter a Christmas present, a Betsy Wetsy doll, and it was rainy, and it was a dark night, and, it happened so fast. And Jake's like, what happened, car accident? And she's like, no, cancer.
Well, you mentioned she's trying to make it timely, so she says it was rainy. She was trying to get me a Betsy Wetsy doll. Daniel Day-Lewis won an Oscar for My Left Foot.
Again, this is not the scene most people remember about this movie unless you've watched it recently, but there's so many little fun dialogue moments where...
Yeah, you got to rewatch this one. It's great.
I want to go to art school. That's my dream. I want to go to Paris, and there's a school that I have to attend. It costs $26,000. And Jake's like, well, that's a coincidence. My family, we're rich. We give out scholarships to one art student who wants to study in Paris every year. And she's like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah, we gave it to Lupe Rodriguez, the Mexican finger painter, this year.
Although I'm sure Janie will find her scholarship some other way. She's got some great talent.
Okay, one other scene that's big here that I want to mention is there's a running subplot in this movie that's like Bring It On, the cheerleader movie. We're kind of referencing that here, where that's a famous teen movie from the 2000s starring Kirsten Dunst, where the white cheerleaders at one school steal the cheer of the black cheerleaders from an inner city school, and there's a big controversy. So we referenced that in the movie where they literally steal the black team's cheer at the movie right in front of the black cheerleaders. Did you write it down? Do you have the exact cheer that they do here? It's really funny.
Oh, I'm not going to quote it verbatim, but I think it's just them dancing and they're saying, we're black, we ain't white, we definitely ain't white. It's like, yeah, real original there.
Don't they even say we're the North Compton Wildcats or something in their cheer?
Oh, yeah, they even point out the name of the school, I think.
Yeah. And then the announcer's all excited. Damn, those bitches represent. Okay, going back to our stuff we love about this movie, you got the cameos. You have Mr. T inexplicably showing up in this movie as the wise old janitor.
Yeah.
And that's not really a reference to any specific teen movie. That's just we wanted to have Mr. T in a movie, so that was good.
Yeah, and if you look back, I think he's even in the background in all the flashback scenes of the first game that Jake blows. You can actually see him in the background in his, is it that green garb, his tarp that he wears, pretty much?
I'm always excited when Mr. T is drawing a paycheck, so I think it was a good move to bring him in there.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah, we get towards the end of the movie here. We have there's a big musical number where literally all these storylines are diverging and going out of control, and we're trying to get all these people to meet up in one place. And they have a song about how they're all going to meet at the prom, and everything's going to be resolved at the prom. And it's kind of a big, neat little musical moment. Although I will say there's a little inside joke that or not really an inside joke, kind of a comedy trope joke here, where they're all singing to the camera. And then at the end of the song, they just hold the last note and they're just staring there with their arms up pointed towards the camera. And it lingers there for like 10 seconds.
Yeah, that's a great shot.
It's kind of an Austin Powers joke because Mike Myers likes to do that where Dr. Evil and all his minions are laughing and they're laughing hysterically and then they stop. And the camera just lingers on them what happens after the laughing is over. And that's kind of a comedy trope that I just like. Like, all right, after the musical number, what happens when they're all just standing there and we just get this big awkward scene of them holding out their arms to the camera. And then, let's see, we get to the prom at the end of the movie, and all storylines are resolved, and what happens? Jake ends up with Janie, and Mitch ends up with Amanda Becker. She doesn't fall in love with him, but she does manually stimulate him, so it's good.
Catherine finds a guy to take a dump on her chest.
Again, we're leaving so much out. I feel bad, but man, I'm trying to sum up this movie. But yeah, everything works out at the end. And it's all done well, and there's a happy ever after for everybody. And it's okay. Let's talk about. I have a couple more things I want to do before we sign off here. You got anything else you want to do?
I just love this one quote. John Benjamin actually appears in this movie. I don't know if this is one of his earlier film roles. You aware of John Benjamin?
I don't. Who is that?
He's the voice of Archer. He's had a show on Comedy Central, but he has this great quote with the coach after I think Jake gets hurt, and he's asking, "Can he play?" And he says, "Oh, well, he's in a coma." And he says, "Well, can he play?" Well, he can't even breathe. He needs to go to a hospital. He just wants him to answer his question, "Can he play?" I just love that quote.
Okay, so one thing before we get to the very wrap up, the wrap up of this movie here is you started earlier in the movie quoting the famous scene at the end of the movie where the token black guy finally gets to reveal some of his inner character.
Yeah.
And I think we should mention that we'll just set this one up for people. You have this one character in the movie, Malik, who, again, token black guy, never allowed to be in a storyline, never allowed to say anything other than, "Shit, damn, that is whack." And at the end of the movie, Jake is running out looking for Janie. Janie has gone somewhere, and he runs into the token black guy, and he asks Malik, "Do you know where she went?" And Malik, this is the first time he's been allowed to talk ever in a teen movie. He's so excited. So he reels off all these elaborate plot points. Janie's gone here. She's in this motel. She says, "Don't go there. You can just go to the door. It'll be unlocked. You can do this." He reels off all this amazing storyline data. And why don't you tell us what happens next, Kevin?
Well, what does he tell him? He tells him exactly where she is, and then Jake responds, "Well, that was great." And it was, I don't even have do you have the written down? I don't have the quote written down.
Jake kind of turns to the token black guy and says, "You know, Malik, you're an intelligent, insightful human being who doesn't get the respect he deserves." And Malik's like, "You know, man, that's the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me. I'd like to expound on that, and we can talk about this, and I'd love to share some ideas." And Jake's like, "Hold that thought for a minute. I got to run." And he runs out. And Malik just kind of goes, "Motherfucker."
I'm mad he didn't say "that's whack" there.
Yeah.
I just love that they put that in there as a joke that, for all the harping that they did on the black guy's character, and if you think that's insensitive or whatnot, at least they have this little line in here where, he's underappreciated and you should appreciate him more.
All right, so I'm just going to wrap it up. I have a quick little bullet list of like 10 more things. I'll reel these off as quick as possible. Just want to make sure I don't step on you. Anything else you wanted to add before I finish off my last 10 here, Kevin?
No, I'm good. You go for it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cummins. All right, so the last 10 things I love about this movie. 10 things I love about this movie. So, I love that the Chris Klein guy, there's a guy who plays Chris Klein in American Pie.
Oz.
I don't even know the actor's name.
Sam Huntington.
Sam Huntington. There's a scene at the prom where he's standing there at the punch bowl, and he literally starts singing the song that Chris Klein's.
Shooby-dooby-doo-bop, shooby-dooby-dooby-doo-bop.
He sings the exact song that Chris Klein sings in American Pie, and I always thought that was a great little touch, the Shooby-dooby-doo-bop song.
Yeah, his dancing is great in that too, if you watch. It's like the funkiest little dance.
All right. Here's a line that I love. The cocky blonde guy, like we said at the start of the podcast, is always saying, "Jakey, Jakey, Mister, you made a mistakey." He's always coming up with these little plays on words, which are stupid. And so there's one at the end where he decides to lapse into Spanish for no reason. Again, I would never remember this one if I hadn't just seen the movie, where he's mad that Jake blows the championship game, and he comes up and he's going to give one of his little witticisms, and he says, "You know, Jake, you just blew my perfect season. Senor, you just blew my perfect season."
Let's go in Spanish with it now.
That's the line that always kills me because you're not ready for it.
Yeah, it comes out of nowhere.
And then I think I mentioned the heckler screaming, "Jake, do it for Marty's torso."
Yeah.
There's a scene in the football scene when they're running around playing the football game. You can see everybody's character is written on the back of their jersey as their name. Like Jake just says Jake, and Austin says Austin, and Malik says Malik. And there's one guy, if you look, just says extra on the back of his jersey, which I appreciated that little joke.
Oh wow, I didn't catch that. That's good.
Yeah. Here's a great line at the start of the movie when the three nerds, Mitch and his two buddies, are trying to get laid. They've made a pact. They're going to get laid before graduation. And one of them laments, "How are we going to get laid before we graduate?" And one of them says, "Well, we're freshmen."
Freshman. Oh, that's great. Is that a plot point in the movie where the freshmen are trying to get laid, or is that American Pie? No, they're seniors in American Pie.
They're seniors. Yeah, that's the whole point of that pact, that you're a senior, so you have to do it before you leave. So
Gotcha.
therein lies the joke. We still have 3 years plus this year. All right, so I think you mentioned when they say who the prom king is, and somebody yells, "Marty!"
Marty for prom king.
Oh man, I think we got everything. I got Ricky. I got the soundtrack. Okay, here is the last thing I wanted to mention. It's just a real minor plot point, but I will mention it here. Where there's a scene where they're at the party, and Janie is trying to fit in with all the popular kids, and she gets drunk and she jumps off the balcony into the pool, and she screams, "I am a golden goddess," which is a reference to Almost Famous, which is most definitely not a teen movie. I'm not sure why that, other than its oblique reference to Cameron Crowe. But yeah, so she jumps out, and the mean girl comes up, and she's going to humiliate Janie in front of everybody. This is Jamie Presley. And she walks over, and as in, I think it's She's All That, she humiliates her by dumping a drink all over her dress and embarrassing her in front of everybody. But I don't know if people caught that in this movie. What happens is that Jamie Presley just pours water onto her.
It's just water. She just jumped into the pool.
Yeah, Janie literally just came out of the pool, so she's soaking wet, and Jamie Presley jumps water on her, and all of a sudden it's the most humiliating thing, and Janie cries and runs off, even though she was soaked to begin with.
Well, another off-screen joke is somebody in the background goes, "That's gonna stain."
Oh boy. Yeah, again, just one of the funniest movies of its era, and like I said, it's so high on the return on investment scale because you are expecting nothing going into this, and it's so much funnier, and it's so much wittier, and there's so many little background jokes and references to stuff, and like I said, the American Pie room, you don't even realize, they don't point it out, this is the exact same room Jim had in American Pie. Just so much stuff going on in this movie, and you can hear how much fun we're having talking about it. And again, it's not a movie for everybody. If you don't like teen movies and parodies and comedies, obviously you're not going to like it. But if that kind of stuff makes you laugh, this movie is about as funny as it gets, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with you. There is the nasty toilet humor, and some of the jokes are stupid, but all in all, I think this is the best parody movie of all time, and it shouldn't be lumped in with all those other ones.
So you're going to rank this above Airplane?
I'd say so, yeah. I like it more. This is my generation of film. If I was your age, I'd probably say Airplane.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily a wrong opinion. I'm impressed that it has that level of prestige among younger people, because again, Airplane is like the hallowed movie among people my age, and I can see if this movie is that level of prestige among like people you know and your friends, that's pretty impressive. So I think that speaks a lot to it.
Yeah, it's our generation's Airplane, I guess, or it should be.
And again, just before we sign off, I should say there's a great moment in this scene where at the end, Ricky is running after Jake. They're both chasing after Janie, and Jake, of course, runs through airport security, and everyone lets him through because he's the popular kid. And then Ricky wants to run through airport security, and they tell him to basically fuck off. It's a great moment. I will say there's a joke that they don't spell out here where as Ricky's running across the street, he gets constantly harassed and bombarded by these paper boys all driving by saying, "I want my $2," which any child of the 80s knows that's a Better Off Dead reference. So very excited that there's that one. They don't point out that joke or mug to the cameras or really spell it out, but there's fun little Better Off Dead stuff going on there too at the end.
Oh wow, I wasn't even aware of that one either. Wow. Yeah, this movie's got tons of references like that.
Yeah, Better Off Dead, and again, Lucas. They're pulling off all sorts of weird, obscure stuff. So, again, I just want to thank you for stopping by, Kevin. And I will say, this was a movie that it was always on my list to do on Staff Picks because you can tell it just makes me laugh so hard, and I just love it. But Kevin had emailed me the other day. He said, "Have you ever thought of Not Another Teen Movie?" And I'm like, I was thinking of doing that, and Kevin really was hyping it. So he basically talked me into doing this on like 2 days' notice. This is one we just kind of threw together because we were so excited and we were having fun emailing about it. So I really want to thank you for kind of fast-tracking this one because this is one that I always wanted to do, and we had so much fun today. So I want to appreciate you coming on and talking about it.
That's what I'm here for, pumpkin tits.
Thank you. And again, my name is Mario Lanza. You can reach me, staffpicspodcast@gmail.com. You can reach me on Twitter @MarioJLanza. And until the next time I talk to you, I will be out there looking for more underrated, underloved movies, and hopefully somebody interesting to come on and talk about them. Talk to you guys later. Bye.